Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Solving Your Problem. Today we're going to watch a video of the Moses Kabandana, the Moses Kabandana podcast. It's a video of 3 years ago, and the title is I'm 27 years old and I have no career. Let's look at the video. Let's see what he has to say, and let's see what we can add to it.
Hello there, fellow citizens of the internet. My name is Moses, and I've been watching lately a lot of videos, typically young men and women who are having this, I want to call it a quarter life crisis almost. And either A, it centers on the lack of really intimate relationships, whether romantic or otherwise, or career, centers around career or lack thereof. I'm gonna turn my car off for a second. So I just decided to make a quick video, relatively quick, and address the idea or the issue of being in your late 20s, even early 30s, and not necessarily having a career, and what that looks like, what that means, and probably most importantly, what it doesn't mean, right?
So this kind of first off the bat kind of reminds me of a video called I'm 27 years old and I never kissed a girl. That video made by Mr. Gaming Guitarist. Go look him up. Me, but in a different universe. you know. Okay, so this seems to be a time period when people were making a lot of core videos, and I'm 27 this and I'm 27 that. He's actually the same age as Mr. Gaming Guitarist, but talks about the career and not his love life. Now, what I want to add to it is that, yeah, there are a lot of people, or there were a lot of people at that time coming out about certain things, social problematics, right? Social economical problematics that we're struggling with. They can't find a job, they can't secure a job, their education doesn't match their job, they can't find a job because they lack the experience. And the same goes for the love life. Everybody, since a certain time period, everything changed, everything is upside down. And dating isn't as it used to be. People aren't as they used to be. Things have become more complicated, and people lose their drive or get frustrated because of this scenario. And this is probably what he's going to be talking about, but more focusing on the job aspect and the career aspect of life.
So let me start with that first, right? Excuse the hair and all the stuff. I ran into these like small black rubber bands at the store. Well, I went looking for them, and I got bored while I was at home. So this is the result. So I am 27 years of age, and I do not have a career. And here's what I mean by a career. I do not have a steady line of income, a steady source of income, while as a result of doing something that I am passionate about or extremely talented in, that I can do for a very long period of time and be compensated for it. That's what I mean by a career. And the way that I have been sustaining my lifestyle, I have a very simple, not too expensive lifestyle. I think all my bills put together come to about $13.50 a month. Right, I'm very frugal, decently frugal, super chill. I don't spend money on things that I don't necessarily need. Although that's not the case all the time, right? Sometimes I do indulge, but so for my first year after college, all I did was drive for Uber and Lyft. I loved it, made a decent amount of money in it with it, and like I said, it does not take a lot to sustain my lifestyle.
So this again, it reminds me a lot of Mr. Gaming Guitarist. Also driving for Uber. The moment in time that he lost his family's home, that it got seized and all that stuff, and his mom got taken in because of the medical condition she was in. And there's like this history where he also had to basically find a new home and pay off a little loan and work by driving for Uber. So it's a classic case scenario, apparently, for people in each age category going through things like college and university, trying to find their first job, trying to securing their first career, and then eventually, maybe buying or purchases a home. And it's something I see here as well. It's a common pattern, and I do talk about it with my grandmother very often because she does compare a lot in today's society with when she was younger, when she was in her early 20s. And she says that a lot of young people go from college or university, they have their first relationship, they have the first child within the first 2 years, they buy the first property within the first 4 years or 5 years. Everything goes pretty fast after those first few years of after the first years of college or university, when they get their degree, when they got their degree. And all they can think of is just fulfilling all those things like some type of a bucket list. And then the moment in time they get there and they reach that peak, apparently reality doesn't seem to match their reality. So it's like what they perceive as reality isn't the actual reality, and then everything comes crashing down. Doesn't mean every single time, but it does happen more often than back in the days of my grandmother. And that's because people just want to chase the dream. For Americans, it's the American dream, and for people in Europe, you can say it's the European dream, depending on which part of Europe. Not the same, but a lot of Western Europe have or has adopted that type of mentality as well. They believe they have to get someone, get a kid, get the house, preferably build it themselves, and then everything just will work out. And if the relationship doesn't work out, you just pop up more kids, and then everything will be fine. That's not how it works. And then you get at a point of crisis, and that also adds to the whole quarter life crisis as well. But to get back to the point, this is a common thing that I've been seeing: people living beyond what they're earning, even if they have a high degree, even if they have a higher salary and are making bank. They are living beyond what is realistic because they're living in their fantasy world. They're living too idealistic, and it has a price to pay. I always believed, and I will always stick to it, and I want to give it as a word of advice. And people can say, "You're yapping again." Fine. At least I'm trying to share something of value as a mid 30-year-old man. Look, if you can't buy it cash out of hand, forget about it. Forget about it. If you want something, you can't afford it, you can't pay it cash out of hand, the only people should be looking at to help you out are family members, not friends, not colleagues, not some shady organization, none of that, no banks, just you or plus your family. Even not a girlfriend or a boyfriend, forget about that. Just focus on that. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. Don't even attempt. Don't think about it. Forget about it. Put it aside. There will be a moment in time that you can. If it doesn't happen, so be it. Move on. Next chapter of your life.
Right. So that for me was plenty. And then a year after that, I started doing photography, some side gigs, and I had small contract work here and there as an independent contractor. And last year, 2020, I got into acting. Not too deep into it, but consistently looking for gigs enough to like I said, sustain my lifestyle. And this year, I have no idea what I'm going to do, but so far I decided to go back to some online school and add some more tools into my toolbox per se. So I found this course through Coursera that is taught by Google employees. It is a Google certification program. So I started and finished the IT support specialist Google certification program through Coursera, and now I am about halfway through the data analytics professional certificate through Google as well. And this one is coming relatively easy for me. I mean, both are coming relatively easily for me because I did a lot of computer science and data. I took a lot of computer science and data classes in college, but I don't have a career, right? And I am totally fine with that. It's not something that I'm trying to go for. It's not something that I'm striving for.
I think people seem to forget, even if this is 3 years old, people seem to forget the advice of a lot of men trying to help other men thrive, right? Is computer science used to be a cool subject in school, but now we're talking about before AI. Before AI was all cool. Now with AI, forget about it. It's true. You can look it up. You can look it up. It's just, you can say that because of AI, maybe it's time for a comeback of actually skilled jobs. Jobs where you need a certain skill, jobs that can't be replaced with just an AI or with a bot. And these jobs that he's talking about, and I know what I'm talking about too. I've been discussing it a lot with a colleague of mine, and that it's not going to last. So it might be interesting now, and it can give you the money you need, and it can give you some type of a job security. But these types of jobs are not going to last into the near future, with the reason of AI's rapid development and implementing it in so many things in life. It's impossible to sustain that type of a job, and not even thinking about a career. So it's crazy. If this is 3 years old, what is this going to be looking like when we're 5 years again ahead? Then people are not going to having these conversations, or get more people complaining about that they can't find a job in their field, or they thought that their field of study would promise them job security and a career. That is a lie. Life is ever changing constantly. The job market is changing and is more demanding. People get replaced, jobs get filled in by AI. There is so much going on. You have to really take these things serious if you really want to make something. And that's the problem with a lot of people. A lot of people buy into whatever is said like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 15 years ago, and they just believe it's still the same. But that's not true. That's a boomer mentality, sadly enough.
Um, Irregular, steady 9 to 5, right? So if you are someone that is, don't get me wrong, I would like to find something that I'm so passionate about that I would love to do day in, day out for a very prolonged period of time. I'd love to do that. I'd love to find something that I can do that way. But I haven't found one yet, right? So perhaps that is why that I go from job to job, or gig to gig, or different lines of work. Perhaps is to find something that I'm like, you know what, I can actually see myself doing this for a long period of time. I haven't found it yet. So for those who are perhaps around my age range, late 20s, early 30s, and you feel like you don't have a career yet, that's fine. As long as you manage to live below your means, right? Do not try to appease anybody as far as looks, right? If you can't afford a Gucci belt, do not buy a Gucci belt. If you're gonna spend some money on your Gucci belt, sell that $1,000 cell phone that you have, right? Make compromises. So yes, do not try to live a lifestyle that you cannot afford. And if being humble, quote unquote, financially, is not your thing, then make compromises, right? So, anyways, if you are the person that you are in your late 20s, early 30s, you do not have a career. Take a minute to understand the implications of that. If you're beating yourself upside the head, it probably means that you see yourself as a failure, right? As a failure, comparing in comparison to something or someone or society as a whole. So take a minute to reevaluate what failure means to you, right? If you compare, there's a pretty funny story that I think is Jordan Peterson that was talking about it. He was telling a story about this guy that came to him for help, right? He was beating himself upside the head for being a failure, and he used his ex-college roommate as an example, right? I mean, for comparison, right? Like my ex roommate, my college roommate, he's so much more successful than I am. You know, he's doing this and this and that. And Dr. Peterson asks him, who was your roommate? And that roommate is Elon Musk. So, like, WTF? Like 99.99999% of the world compared to Elon Musk.
Okay, that's kind of a lull moment for me because in my mind, I remember this talk. I remember Jordan Peterson talking about this and giving this speech, this lecture, and I remember it being Elon Musk, or I don't. But when he said it, I already sensed it, and then he said it, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. But that's a typical example. You could say the same thing with Zuckerberg back in the days, right? Before the whole Facebook scandal came about and the movie came about. But the point of the matter is here that yeah, we humans have the tendency to compare ourselves with the top of everything, and if we cannot meet up with those type of expectations or can't level up with them, then we feel like a complete failure and we're taking the L home. What doesn't mean necessarily that that's true. It just makes us feel like an inferior type of being in comparison with top graded labeled A type of students or professionals or whatever. It's just in human nature. It's like in sports you can see the same thing in certain skills, whether it's tech or whether it's an actual labor skill. It doesn't matter. We always, it's actually healthy in the sense that it makes us want to be envious and improve ourselves so we can become better, so you can use the negative energy and turn it into a positive. But at the same time, it's just typical because we're very competitive in nature. It's just human nature. You can't help it. There's nothing wrong with that. But of course, if you're going to compare yourself with Elon Musk, like, maybe you shouldn't be doing that to begin with, because that's not a good example. That's not real life. That's not realistic. There are other people that are doing well as well, that are not too out of reach or out of touch with everyday society that we go through, right? I personally think that, I mean, there were times that I compared myself to, but at a certain point, a certain age in life, you just focus on what you're good at or what you like and enjoy and what you want to strive in and what you want to be better at. And you're just going to present that, whether it's the best of the best or not. That doesn't matter anymore. The fact you have something of value to offer, depending, nevertheless, what level, what degree, you just do it and you'll be happy and satisfied with your life and whatever comes with it, whatever fruit it might bear.
We're all failures, at that. If we're gonna use the extremes as examples to compare ourselves to. So take a minute to understand who you're comparing yourself to, what you're comparing yourself to, and how you define success. And that might help you reorient yourself in a way that, yes, you can still take the necessary steps forward without constantly feeling like a failure. Because if you constantly feel like you are a failure, then the motivation to take that smallest step towards success, however you define success, might even be impossible, because you're going to be in this constant down stage where you just don't even want to put your best foot forward, because your best foot forward does not come near what someone else is doing right now. So, to keep this really short, I don't know how long this video has been going on, is to say, if you are in your late 20s, early 30s, you do not have a career, that is okay. Understand that. Really understand that. It is okay. As long as you start to make a reasonable plan. It can be as simple as saying, I'm going to enroll in an online class on something, right? Or I'm going to get I'm gonna start Ubering. right? I when I Ubered, I think I Ubered for about a year and a half here in Los Angeles, and I am not exaggerating this. If you run into an Uber driver, confirm this story with them. I'm most likely sure that they're gonna have something similar to share. Is I ran into a lot of people from various lines of social economic statuses. Some had all kinds of cars, all kinds of houses, vacation houses, and stuff like that. Some I would be picking them up and taking them to their third job of the day. It's literally that those types of extremes you run into on a daily basis as someone that's in the public service, right? That's dealing with a lot of people, and nearly all of them, nearly all of those that shared their personal issues with me, had similar problems. One, relationship problems, whether romantic or otherwise. Two, financial problems, right? Whether with themselves or with the people in their lives. So those that one guy, I remember he was complaining to me that he had to hide his Tesla from his son because his son would just drive it all the time, and he just didn't want his son to get into an accident, and that was driving him nuts. Like that was making him like lose all kinds of sleep, like start to affect his work. To me, right, that was not a stressful. That was not something that would cause me that much stress. I would just get rid of the car, sell the car. And I ran into this other guy. This is the other extreme of it. I was dropping him off at a mechanic shop, and I think I asked him why he takes Uber so much, because I mean the distance that I was driving to drop him off, it was a long distance. Good for me as a driver, you know, I get to make a lot more money, and he wasn't an illegal resident, right? So he could not afford to get an actual vehicle legally under his name. So he takes Uber. Now, how he got to register for Uber, that's probably beyond me. So this both polar extremes of this social economic ladder still had, you know, money problems, relationship problems, like problems of their own, whether they had a career or no career. So I've also ran into men and women in their late 40s, mid 40s, early 50s who had just switched into a new career.
Okay, so this is like a perfect example of when people reach their 40s, 50s that have an actual midlife crisis and change careers. I've heard that before too. It is because most of the time they started out life by following whatever their parents wanted them to follow in school, college, and university, and eventually enroll in a certain job. And at some point in time they're like, okay, this is not what I initially wanted to do, or this is not how I see myself. I don't want to be doing this the rest of my life because I didn't choose for this type of a career, this life, this job. And then they suddenly get this epiphany, and then they just make a switch, and then they start living for themselves the latter 50 years of their lives. And it's a typical thing. I've heard it too. People that sort out of a lawyer ending up as a chef, people trying to be like a veterinarian, you know, vet, and then they shift and they become like an actor. Like there are people that go through it. It's not that uncommon, and it makes sense if you think about it, because a lot of people that are financially well off, or at least they saved a lot of money so that their children could go to college and university to get a specific type of degree. They want them to be successful at life and have a higher social status, and even be better than they used to be in their days. And that's all they care about. They don't care about whether the child or the growing up teenager wants to live that life, wants to work that job, wants to be put in that position of society, and wants to have to deal with that status and the stress that comes with it, because it has a reputation. There is something to uphold, and it's very stressful. And they at some point they stop pleasing their parents and start pleasing themselves in the sense of career endeavor. And it makes sense. That's human nature too. So I don't blame people to be late bloomers. It's just some people that understand that being a people or a parent pleaser is not eventually going to make you happy in the long run, even if the job gives you a lot of money.
And not switch into a field that has a lot of transferable skills from the previous field. No, it's like one of the questions that I would always ask is this the job that you have always wanted? And if not, what was the job that you always wanted to do? And sometimes people would be like, I've always wanted to be X, Y, and Z, but I just, I never really gonna pursue that. And some people were like, I've always wanted to do X, Y, and Z, and I waited so much, but now I'm in my late 40s, early 50s. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. So if you are in your late 20s, early 30s, you are fine. You're fine if you do not have a career. Just take the smallest possible step that you can take towards figuring out what your career might be. In my case, the smallest possible step was diving into all kinds of different fields and fully indulge in them and see what sticks. See if it sticks. See what works. See if my love and passion for that field is gonna take over. It's gonna make me want to do it in the long term. So, anyways, those are my 2 cents. I would love to make some more videos on this, depending on how the public reacts to this. But yeah, my name is Moses. You have been watching this on my YouTube channel, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.
I think the guy is Nigerian, just to be specific about it. I mean, it kind of gives me the impression, though. But I wouldn't say the best advice is just to do to enroll yourself in whatever course, to accumulate a lot of insight in certain fields, and then eventually pick a random job to stick with and build out of a career. I don't personally think that works out that way. We should definitely do a follow-up on where he is now. I should take a little deep dive in his channel, look at his content. I'm not sure that he uploaded anything anymore. A lot of people the channel's just turned into a little online ghost town by itself, because they don't see it taking off as fast as they wanted, and they see it as pointless, and then just focus on other things in life besides the internet. Well, at least what I want to add to it is that, look, don't let your parents tell you what you should be doing in life. If they want to guide you on a morale basis, I'm fine with that. If they want to share their expertise and insight and maybe some skills, that is perfect. Why not? But don't let them tell you in what direction you should go or whom you should be in society. I personally think that brings a lot of dissatisfaction later on in life, and even resentment against your parents. So you want to keep that parental and child relationship healthy and positive. And that doesn't work if you just give in and be a parent pleaser all your life. That is not going to make you happy, and that's not going to make the relationship any better in the future if you become an adult and have children too. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Add something in the comment section. I'm curious about your opinion on the matter. Is it even possible to still have a career if you're in your late 20s and early 30s? And what do you think is the best career option? And what do you think that it brings in the near future? Like, are there changes at the horizon, or are there still possibilities, or young men doomed, or is there still hope? Let's just wait and see for the next video. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Take care, and peace.